This is episode 241 of the Focused Mindset Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about being curious longer on this podcast and all about some of the barriers that come up within our mind and then within our actions that stops us from using the solution-focused approach. And I'm also going to talk about some of the things I'm doing in my counseling practice, update you a little bit. It's time for us to chat. So let's get started. This is the podcast where we build strong connections and have great conversations using the solution-focused approach. We share stories and strategies about how to help you and I be the leaders we were always meant to be. Now, let me talk to you a little bit first about this time of year. It's like this weird feeling when everyone's getting ready for starting the new year and buying school supplies and thinking about their schedules and thinking about where they're going to go. There's like this weird feeling that's so familiar to me after over 30 years of being in the education field that you're like excited and dread. And it's just kind of living within you at the same time. And that's what I've been experiencing lately. I hopped into my campus last week. And like many of you know, I am collecting data for RAMP. And that would be recognized by ASCA, the American School Counseling Association. I'm going to try and allow all of you to kind of come along with me on this journey. I know that many of you that listen to this podcast are also in the education field. And whether you're trying to reach for some type of award or certification or award for your school like RAMP is, it's quite a journey. So I am going to share a little bit on my Instagram. I'm going to start now and then kind of like updating. How did this go? How did this go? I'm hoping that it will encourage anyone else that's kind of moving towards something that's lofty and big, or even something that's small, but they know they have to do. My Instagram is Cher Kretz, the Focused Mindset. And I'll talk about it here too, but I'll wait till the end of the podcast. So that way, we're done. If you are interested, you can hang on and I'll give you my little update. Now, when we talk about the solution-focused approach, some people say that it takes too long and it's just too much. It just takes way too long to allow them to go through that process. Now, when you ask more questions, there's many different reasons. We're going to focus on the specific reason when somebody is waiting for the student to answer and to think and to process, and is just feeling like time is ticking on forever. There's many reasons why students or people that you're working with, really anybody, might hold back from answering right away. One of the most common that we sometimes easily dismiss is that they're thinking. Now, remember that when you ask a question, a lot of times you kind of know the answer in your brain, right? That you think should be the answer. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, about thinking you know the answer a little bit later. But let's just say when you ask a question, the answer seems obvious to you because you're the one that asked it, right? Unless you were truly, truly curious about where they're coming from and you're asking the question because you don't know the answer, then you come from a completely different place. You really are waiting, like, what is the answer? I must know it. Usually that happens when you're going to somebody that you feel like has a lot of wisdom on the subject. You feel like they have the answer and you don't. So those are the genuine questions where you're going to feel fine with the patients that you need to have the answer. If you come to someone with all the knowledge, your guru in whatever the subject is, and they sit back and take time to think and process their answer, you're sitting on the edge of your seat and being like, okay, I'm ready and I'm patient and I'm waiting. On the other hand, though, you can get tricked into thinking I'm asking these questions and I just need to answer from them. I need the answer. And in that case, are you really curious? All educators, when they're in the training and teaching mode, they're asking questions because it's we're taught to do that. Ask questions, be curious. And we ask the right questions. They could even be the perfect question. And it's not the question that messes everything up. It's what we're thinking while we ask the question, how we ask the question, and then how and if we allow ourselves to be truly curious to find out the answer from that person, whether or not we feel as though we know the quote unquote correct answer, whether or not we asked that question already kind of knowing the process ourselves, just doing it for their benefit. No matter what, staying curious longer is the key to the full success of the solution focused approach. But when we feel as though we need to move quickly and we need them to answer, or they answer in a way that we didn't expect and we don't want, and it doesn't fall in line with the standard that we're talking about or the situation we're talking about, or, this doesn't, you're not using the exact wording of our PBIS standards or whatever it might be, then we begin to lead. We begin to do the leading thing where we're going, well, but what about this? And what about that? And whenever that happens, the teacher feels really great that they're asking questions. And in an instant, they don't even realize that they have switched from being truly curious and asking a question, if they were ever in that state in the first place, to leading them to an answer. And it does not take long, especially for savvy students, to realize what's happening. Oh, there's an answer I'm supposed to say. And this has now gone from me thinking about what I might feel and learning from this to, ooh, we're playing charades. Now I get to guess what you think the right answer is. Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? I'm telling you, it's almost that obvious when you're watching an interaction between a kid and you're looking for solution focused practices. It's not so obvious when you're in the middle of it. When you're in the middle of doing that, it feels so much more comfortable to be like, tell me about what happened. What's on your mind? What do you think could have happened? What do you think you're going to do instead? And at that point, that's when they freeze. That silence of them freezing can irritate the heck out of us. And we're like, you know what? We need to make an agreement. How about, what do you think about X? And then you actually led them and gave them an answer, right? And then yeah, I can agree to that. I can agree to that. And then you write that down as if it was their idea. Look, if you think, yeah, I've fallen into that more than once, don't beat yourself up. It happens. But let's be a little bit aware moving into these next few weeks, these next few months, aware of what our intention is and what we're actually doing when we're communicating with people. Are we staying curious long enough? And are we genuinely curious? See, earlier, I used the example of when we aren't so pressed for time and we aren't in the teaching mode. That happens when we don't know the answer. We actually are the one that needs to figure something out. And when we go to the person that we think has the answer, and then we ask them, the vibe is totally different. Can we do that with our students? Can we take that kind of vibe into our conversation with those that we're consulting with, whether it be if you're a counselor with a teacher or a coaching type conversation? Can we go in, even with all the knowledge we have, even if we all end up landing on the same exact answer that you would have suggested? Can we choose to stay curious longer in a way that we're coming to speak to someone who has an answer? They have an answer that you want to hear. Let me tell you, I believe we can. I believe we can when we're committed to using the solution-focused approach. Because one of the cornerstones of the solution-focused approach is that we're speaking to the expert in the room. We are not the expert in the room. We are talking to the expert. And what I mean is they are the expert of their own life, and they will be from the beginning to the end. If they're a humble expert, they'll be the type of expert that seeks out advice and takes that wisdom in. But whatever it is, they know themselves better than you. They know their ideas and thoughts and where they've been. If you're talking to a parent, they know their family. You're not there. You're not in that space. No matter how much education they have, what socioeconomic background they have, no matter where they are in their life and where you are in your life, you can practice the type of humility of saying, I'm truly going to ask these questions, even though it is true that there is a path that I can go on that I truly know answers, and take a back seat to that and let that part of your brain rest. Just stop. Just stop trying to figure out the answer for a minute and say, I am going to be truly curious. And the only thing that you should be doing within your brain is stopping yourself from progressing on too fast. Being curious, basically. There's a battle going on within you that wants you not to be curious. And your job is to remain curious longer and ask questions longer with a true, honest emotion of, I know that this person has wisdom within them. I know that there's hope within them just waiting to come out that they felt before in their life. No matter how hopeless place they are now, I want to see the path that they might enlighten if they are encouraged to think for themselves here. And it does, and it's like, oh, they can't, they won't. I've been there before and they won't do it. Well, they won't if we keep on handling things the way we usually do, or we jump in too early, because man, they're just like, oh, good. They finally told me what I need to do. Oh, I'm so glad I finally, yeah, we'll just do that. It's the easy route out. The problem is it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to follow that advice, especially if you're leading to the answer. And then all of a sudden they say the right one. Yes. And then you're thinking they had insight. Did they though? Did they have insight, or did they just play charades with you and they ended up guessing the very answer that was in your brain? Yes, that's what I was thinking of. Gold star. There doesn't need to be right or wrong. When you're dealing with the social and emotional learning side, we need to step away from the right and wrong in order to give that person a chance to come up with some ideas. I'm telling you, the empowerment that happens when they come up with an idea that might work, the empowerment that happens when they come up with an idea and it doesn't work. Either way, their idea moving forward is going to have an impact in a greater way. Because when they come back to you, they can say, I tried it and it didn't work. And then, well, let's keep thinking then. What do you think could work? Now, that doesn't mean that you never give your opinion. That is an absolute fallacy that many people think. It's not that. It's that the way you share your opinion then is based on all of the things that you've heard within them, that you know of them, that you know they've tried. And it works best if you've been patient enough for them to ask you, well, what do you think? You want them to actually be in the place that you are when you go to that person with wisdom and you really want the answer. You want them in that space if possible. And you can't get to that space unless you're patient for a while. And if you do have some wisdom you'd like to share, when you have a little bit more about where they're at and where their thoughts are and how they're thinking in your mind, you can tailor make that sprinkle of advice so much better than you could have if you didn't. It might be that, I know you've tried this, but I'm wondering, what if you tried a road that you think would lead to peace? What do you think would lead to peace? And see, you might have before just said, what do you think you could do? And that might be too hard for someone to figure out. I don't know what to do. That's why I'm coming to you. And so being patient longer might be reframing that for them and being like, well, if you looked at it in a way that you were moving just a couple of steps towards peace, or if you were looking for a couple of people that could help you, who would that be? Or what resources have you already tried? Now, in some cases, you might say, I want to tell you a little story. Keep it short. I've dealt with this before, and sometimes I just needed to step back and think. And then I discovered that And then you might sprinkle in a little story. It works better with a story, an anecdote of some sort, short, sweet, not like when back in my day, but some short thing that can relate to them. And then they're like, oh, this person has done this before. Then you want to put it right back on them. Well, what do you think you could do? This is really your thing, not mine anyway. What do you think you could do? And you're looking for opportunities to be curious about what is locked inside of their brain that needs to come out. What wisdom might they share? My favorite time in counseling is when I'm patient long enough to be surprised myself. They share something that I could have never thought of and was way better than the advice that was rolling through my mind, even though I was stopping myself from saying it. I love being surprised like that. And we get to be surprised like that when we use the solution-focused approach. And the cornerstone of the solution-focused approach is the curiosity that it takes to gather information with the goal of knowing what their best hope is for this conversation. They might not know if they have a bunch of hope in their life right then. They might not see a clear pathway forward. They might feel as though their will has been shot because they are tired and they're weary. The task in front of them is hard, but they can think about what could I do? What might I do? They can do that when the pressure is off of them of whether something is right or wrong, and they have a person sitting in front of them that's curious, that's interested in them, that sees the things that they've done well and is willing to bring it up, and then let them ponder that. And what does that mean? When I was speaking to a teacher about this, and they were saying, it's true though, that they don't want to say what they want to do. They just want to be quiet. Even though I asked them, what do you think you should do? What do you think you should do? And finally, I just tell them, and then they agree. And then we feel as though things are moving in a great direction because we're progressing. Determine why there's a freeze in your conversation when you ask a question and they don't answer. Could it be that you need to reframe a question and be patient? Could it be that you need to ask another level of the question of saying, well, if you were doing well, let's say, well, I just want to do well. And you say, well, what do you need to do well? You might ask a question like, well, if your best friend was watching you do well, and they were like, oh, that was really, really good. What are some of the things you think that they would see you do? Or have you ever thought of a time when your mom said you did a good job, or your teacher said you did a good job? What were you doing then? Right? We're either having them step into an imaginary future by someone else looking on to them so they're able to kind of like reframe it, or we're stepping into a little bit of their past and allowing them to see that they have actually done a similar thing before. And then that reignites hope. And that's all it takes. A small spark, a little move in the direction that they weren't going to move that came from them. Like I mentioned earlier, even if they come up with something and they go try it and it doesn't work, oh, they're so excited to share it with you. It's like experiment number 1 didn't work. Well, what are we going to do to try another method? It helps them problem solve in a completely different way, moving forward into action, which is so important. I think it really helps them take action better because you were able to stay curious longer. You were able to look at the person in front of you as the expert of their life, and that they deserve for you to sit a little longer and allow them the thinking time that they need to come up with an answer. We're not going to jump in because of looking at the watch. Now, the wisdom of the teacher that I was speaking to a couple weeks back came in that conversation after I was attempting to be very curious, because I'm very curious about the roadblocks to the solution-focused approach, because the longer I do it, the more natural it feels, right? So I want to hear from people about their roadblocks. She realized 2 things, 2 insights in that conversation. She said, it might not be so much that they can't come up with the answer, but just that I'm impatient. It might be that I think it's taking a long time, but I've never actually timed it. Maybe it would take the same amount of time that as it does for me to share with them what I think and then let them get buy-in and have them say yes. as it would for me to be patient and wait for them to answer and then just write down what they said. I don't know. I haven't even tested that yet. Something tells me she's probably going to test it, right? And the other insight was, sometimes I think that kids are just waiting because they don't want to be wrong. Two great insights. So I hope that this little tidbit about the solution focused approach helps you as you move forward today and every day. And how is my ramp journey going? Well, I went ahead and dove into what I needed to do. I knew that there's one piece to it that I had to do last year. It was documenting my time. And I documented my time for a couple of weeks just on paper. And then I realized this week that I need to actually put it in what's called a time calculator. And I'm like, I should have put that together. So I think I'm going to have lots of those moments to be able to receive ramp. And that it made me feel like a little extra work. Right now in my journey, there's a lot of me just figuring out how I'm going to do what is in front of me. I've already kind of realized, okay, here's all the documents. It's going to be a lot of work. I've given into that. And now I'm saying, how is it going to happen? And I'm just so thankful for the principal that I have right now. It's one reason I'm doing ramp right now is because she's the type of person that she has the natural ability to have very high standards, but also support you in what you want to do. So that's the type of person that I need behind me to be able to pull something like this off. I'm at an elementary school. I'm the only counselor. It's not like I'm going to be able to divvy up a lot of the work that needs to be done to get this special recognition. So I was so excited because we were outside and I was sharing some things with her. And right away, she started talking about her knowledge about how to write goals and the gaps. After that conversation, I felt like I can do this. So currently, as it stands, yeah, the anxiety is still there, but I'm feeling glad that I have people coming alongside me. I'll keep you guys updated. This is going to be a year-long process. Again, I'll wait till the end. So if you don't want to hear about ramp, you don't have to. But, some of you are going to be walking along this with me. And I bet you there's some of you that are also collecting the data needed. And we will be hopefully getting ramp together and walking across that stage in July with that certificate next July, because you have to gather information for a year and then apply. All right. We've come to an end. I would love for you to check out the show notes. Look, I am doing a training in just a few weeks for a bunch of counselors, and we are going to be diving in to the solution focused approach. I'm going to be taking some of that and sharing that knowledge with you in the weeks to come. We've chatted long enough today. Let's get out there and be our best self. It's time for us to move forward. So until next time, live solution focused. Bye-bye.